Anyway, this week we're joined by HEC Paris, and we have a great crew today. I'm really excited to talk to my friend and colleague, Colleen Stanfa, and a couple of other people from HEC, including an alum and a current student. So let's introduce Colleen.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Eric. Eric and Bara for having HEC featured in this episode. I'm super excited to be here. I love all things HEC, so really happy to share about our MBA programs here today. So a little bit about myself. I've been working at HEC for about 5 years. I have experience as a recruitment manager in the MBA program, so can take all questions about the MBA, and currently am dedicated to the executive MBA marketing and recruitment teams. So also have lots of knowledge about the executive MBA program. So really excited to share, take questions, and really pleased to have been asked to participate in this conversation. So thanks so much, Eric.
Thanks, Colleen. And as Colleen said, if there's any questions, anyone listening in the audience, whether on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, feel free to type in your question and we'll be sure to answer it. And so without further ado, let's introduce some of our other featured guests today, including a recent alum. She just graduated from the HEC Paris class of 2022, as I understand, and that's Stuti Dubey. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Hi everyone. I'm Stuti Dubey. Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Bara, for having me here, and thanks, HEC, as well. I graduated on 11th June, so I'm still in the joy of just clearing everything about HEC Executive MBA. I am from India, and I'm based in Paris. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, last but not least, we have Stefan Tipa. And I'm not sure where you're joining us from today, Stefan, but welcome to MBA Waves.
Yes. Thanks, Eric. And hi, everybody. So I'm joining today from Stockholm, Sweden. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Moldova, and then I've been a little bit everywhere in Europe, in Sweden, in Switzerland, in France, in Italy, because of studying and working. And really happy to share with you, whatever you're curious about.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks for joining us. So I guess, Bara, you're going to start us off with some questions.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to meet you and wonderful to feature your HEC Paris. And I'm curious what's new and exciting happening at HEC Paris.
Thanks for this question. I think the most exciting thing happening around HEC these days is our leadership seminar, actually. As part of the MBA and EMBA program curriculum, our students participate in a leadership seminar on our campus. We have a 340-acre wooded campus with a rock climbing wall, a lake, a chateau, and tons of sports facilities. And the leadership seminar is put on by a, let's say, group of mentors that are specialized in high pressure simulations. Some of them are ex-military. So our students are participating in the seminar right now, actually. And that's, I think, a real highlight of the program, either program. I don't know, Stuti, if you have any insight to share on that, or Stefan, if you've done the seminar yet, maybe you can share more about what it was like.
So thanks for bringing that up, Colleen. I was actually on the campus the past weekend, and it was an amazing experience. So you're actually put in a group of about 10 to 12 people who are your EMBA colleagues, and then you are given such interesting simulations. You have a lot of pushing your own comfort zone kind of activities, and the more and more you do these activities, you get to know what kind of person you are, what kind of leadership you come up with, and how do you really behave in really difficult challenges or situations which are beyond your control. That being said, I'm still hurting. I did rock climbing. It was amazing. I think those 2 nights of Saturday and Sunday, I actually slept like a baby after a very long time. You do rock climbing, you do wall climbing down. It's fun. It's made of everything that would make you feel like, okay, you are more than you would have imagined. So it's an exceptional part of the executive MBA curriculum as well. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Stuti. Stefan, I don't know if have you done the leadership seminar yet, Stefan?
Yeah, I've done it, yes. And I mean, it's I can only agree with what Stuti said. And in general, leadership seminars come in all shape and forms, right? But this one, I would say, really stands out, and I think it really stood out for everybody because there was quite a high satisfaction rate after that. And it's really brings out a culture of feedback and reflection, because at the end of the day, it's all kind of role-playing simulations under pressure. But the value out of it is the reflection and the feedback that you get at the end of each session, and giving and receiving that feedback. It's also made a little bit more humbling experience since it's so much more practical, and it's throughout a few days, right? So it's not just something that you come in the morning and leave after lunch. It's just a continuous thing that makes it more real, right? Although it's a simulation, but it feels very real in a way.
Well, it sounds like it builds community.
Yeah,
right?
You sold me on rock climbing and chateaus. I was like, okay, I want to do that. It just sounds very physical, but it also sounds like a really great way to like break down barriers and like overcome like shyness and whatever cultural barriers might be there. I mean, how many people are in the batch typically?
Maybe I can answer that question. So in the executive MBA, there's typically around 230 students all across all 5 intake tracks. And in the MBA, it's around 300 students across 2 intake tracks.
Okay, so it's a lot of people, and people coming from all over the world. And that's exactly the kind of activity that can help break those barriers down. And Colleen, you brought up a really important point, which is kind of the main theme of today's episode, like comparing the full-time and executive MBA programs. So before we jump into the difference in these programs, can you share, any of you, anything that these programs have in common?
Yeah, definitely. To connect kind of maybe with what we were just discussing. So I think as a school, HEC has just such a strong focus on leadership in general. So whether you're joining at the classic MBA level, you're kind of mid-career, or whether you're in really the executive MBA, like really senior in your career already, we take leadership very seriously, and we have a really hands-on approach to leadership. So I think either program will offer really sound and interesting leadership development throughout the whole program. Another thing I think that characterizes us as a school, but specifically these 2 programs, is the international dynamic of HEC. We just have such an international and multicultural environment. I think we kind of live and breathe diversity in everything that we do. So in the MBA program, for example, we have around 94% of students that come from outside of France. So we have that kind of French tradition at the school, but it's very, very international. So it creates a really dynamic kind of interesting cultural experience, I think, for MBA students. For the MBA, it's the same. We have over 60 nationalities in every class. So again, it's super, super international, and we're really focused on building that kind of open-minded, internationally minded leader. So I think those kind of 2 elements really thread both programs. I don't know if either, Stefan or Stuti, if you have any comments on that besides what I've said.
Yeah, maybe a quick thing, because there are 2 different programs, right? In a way, and the experience it's a little bit different of the people who are coming to doing it. What I would say what is very common at the end, once you've done one or the other, it is the network that you get access to, because it doesn't really matter which program in the agency, let's say, ecosystem you do. The network is the same, and I mean, and I can really testify to that, because I've been reaching out to people through all kind of programs, and it's always been very positive, very welcoming response. So I'd say that this is something that really brings the two programs together in that case.
And building on what Colleen you just said, and Stefan, I think one of the exceptional things which is there for executive MBAs, we have 5 tracks. So no matter where you are, which part of the world, what is your current commitment, what are the flexibilities that you can look at. So the program tracks are such that you can pick something which is more convenient for you. And despite whichever track you're part of, you still get the whole experience. And one thing which is also pretty unique for me in that case is that each track is typically a size of about 50 to 60, but you're a large family of 200 something people, and everyone is so brilliant. So quickly jumping onto the learning experience, the kind of learning that you get from your own peers, that is again exceptional.
That's great. So what would you say, looking at the different programs, like what are the standout features of the EMBA versus the MBA?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I can start just by answering this in kind of general terms, in terms of like the program structure. So a lot candidates approach us sometimes asking about full-time versus part-time programs. And in fact, at HEC, we don't really separate the programs in that way. We really separate them based on the profile of the class. The MBA, the classic full-time MBA, happens to be a full-time program. It's our program that takes place. It starts every year in September and January. Both intake tracks are part of the same graduating class. It's a 16-month-long learning journey that's full-time. So this is kind of like the base structure of the program that's set up in this way. For the executive MBA, it's a part-time program, but it's not a part-time MBA. It's really an executive level program. So the candidates who are joining the executive MBA really are seasoned professionals. On average, they have 14 years of work experience, and they're choosing between 5 different intake tracks. So there's a lot of flexibility with the executive MBA. There's different starting times throughout the year, as I mentioned, in different study formats as well. So as Stuti mentioned, there's a couple of different ways that this program can be kind of made possible for someone who's already at an executive level or a senior manager level. So as a base, those are kind of the two program formats that we see. In terms of the content of the program, while both programs will have content across kind of the foundations of business and general management, you will have the possibility in either program to specialize. So I think this is really an interesting and unique feature about HEC, is that you'll have a series of specializations that you can take whether you join the MBA or the executive MBA, and those specializations mix all tracks across the program. So it's super interesting because not only are you diving into a specific theme topic, but you're also networking again with even more people who are in your intake class. Talking about the specializations, I think this is another question we get a lot about electives, or what is HEC known for, or if I want to do XYZ, can HEC help me? I think when you look at the portfolio of specializations that are offered, you can really see that HEC has kind of got a, not something for everyone necessarily, but we're not focused only in one area. We're offering specializations across finance, across entrepreneurship. We're really focused on innovation, social innovation, and themes related to kind of that arena. You'll also have a specialization in marketing, or if you're interested in luxury. So again, if you have doubts, or if you're wondering about, what kind of cool specialization can I take with HEC, you can reach out directly to me. I can share a specialization booklet and give full details about that. I don't know if, maybe either Stuti or Stefan, if you want to share maybe about how you've kind of customized the program. I think maybe that could be interesting. Stefan, I don't know if you want to maybe talk about that first.
Yeah, I mean, of course. So, so definitely there is the different specialization tracks, which if I'm not wrong, there are 7 now or something like that, right? And they go from the more traditional, like finance and strategy, to like more towards innovation and entrepreneurship. But I mean, on top of the strategy, there are also the electives, right? So you can actually choose to take a specialization in a certain area, but then to complement it with electives that and almost like having experience to specializations, right? So for example, you do finance specialization, and then you take strategy or marketing electives, and that's another 7 courses that you can do. So I think that's a pretty kind of common approach that some people have to complement the two things and build on top of each other. And yeah, I think that makes sense.
Super. And then Stuti, I don't know if you want to reflect a little bit on how the specializations work in the EMBA.
Yes, thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Stefan. So I'll just take a step back while you were comparing the MBAs and EMBAs. So when I started, I had about 15 years of work experience. And this is what I generally tell people, that if you're looking at the MBA program, it will equip you to build that financial model. And if you're doing the executive MBA program, it will equip you to understand which elements to pick from that business model and financial model, then integrate back into your strategies and think as a leader, what do you want to do about it for your business? So that's how I look at the difference between the executive MBA and the MBA program. And for the specialization, when I was looking for specialization, I actually took a subject that I had not worked in, had zero idea about, which was energy. And of late, HEC has also added two new specializations, which is board governance and medicine and hospital management, so something related to medical. So the way I look at it is specialization is very accustomed with what is needed in today's business world, and how you as a leader can position yourself with those specializations. So how do you add value to what you want to do, and how do you become better at it? So specializations are a great tool to do that. So in my personal case, I used my specialization to put myself as a sustainability leader. So that's a great tool that you have access to.
Amazing. Thanks so much,
I mean,
Stuti.
I
I
think
don't
it
know if
makes
I
a lot of
can.
sense. I was going to say it makes a lot of sense because it speaks to what companies are looking for, is graduates who have that kind of level of specialization. So it's a really good thing. You made me think of a few things, and probably Colleen's the best person to ask because you kind of span across both. Are the specializations, you mentioned 7. Are they the same 7 across the 2 programs? And at what point during the program do you specialize? Is it like from the very beginning? Are you admitted into a specialization from the beginning, or you can choose that later on?
Yep. Okay, love this question. Thank you so much. Yeah, so the specializations are different in both the MBA and the EMBA, although you'll see overlap in some of the themes just based on kind of where the HEC professors are, are the areas where they're teaching in. So for the classic MBA, you have 7 specializations. For the executive MBA, you now have 9 specializations. Another thing that's a little bit different for the EMBA is that the specializations are also taking place abroad. So for example, the energy specialization takes place in Doha, at our campus in Doha. And so the students in the program are actually traveling to our Doha campus to take that specialization. Whereas the luxury specialization, luxury today and tomorrow, takes place in Milan. So there's that opportunity to go abroad with the specialization in the EMBA. So not exactly the same. A big question we get from applicants is, when do I have to decide about the specialization, right? So when we are looking at your application, we'll ask applicants to give us their intention for their specialization, but this is by no means binding. And in fact, we see very often that candidates change their mind after they start the program. So they might have an idea for like how they envision their MBA, what they see for themselves. They know exactly what they want, but then they're put into an environment where they're being inspired on a daily basis by their peers. They're learning so many new things on really a constant basis, and this really shapes the takeaways and the path, right, of a typical student. So so yeah, there's time to digest, to get accustomed to the MBA world environment before having to actually move forward and jump into the specialization.
That's kind of reassuring. People who don't know
Yeah.
exactly from the very beginning, yeah, takes a little bit of the pressure off. For those of us who work in the MBA world, we often talk about finding the right fit, right? And there are tons of fantastic MBA programs out there, but each of them, has their own unique flavor of delivering the nuts and bolts of an MBA. So whether we're talking about the full-time or the executive, a lot of it comes down to culture. So tell us about the culture at HEC.
Maybe I'll start and then I can pass it off to Stefan and Stuti. So this is I think one of the things I love the most about HEC is the environment on campus. When you're on campus, really the environment's so vibrant. People are so friendly. People are so nice. Like I said, we're an old French institution, so of course you have this kind of like French flair on campus, but you have this community of global students and staff and faculty who come together on campus to, again, try to bring new knowledge to the new generation of business leaders. And that's just in the air at HEC. So really, when you're on campus, you can feel this kind of some sort of electricity. It's really hard to describe, but as a staff member of HEC, it's one of the reasons why I love, going to campus every day, because it's it's such a friendly and positive environment. Stefan, Stuti, I don't know, maybe you can speak more to your own experiences.
But you're also part of that patchwork, being someone who's American originally, now in France, the staff, contributing to that international mix. It's great. And yeah, Stuti, did you want to go?
Sure. Thank you, Colleen. I would say when I actually moved to Paris and I started my HEC, I was skeptical and a little nervous. I was like, I really don't know how would I fit in. It turns out that I have a huge family. I have a huge family of 60 immediate cohort members. And then I cannot even begin to tell you how many other EMBAs and MBA students are part of this extended family. So it's a huge, big family. And I'll actually take an example which will kind of tell you the culture HEC has. So we have something called as POW, which Stefan is better equipped to say that, which is Party of the Week on Thursday. And we have these leadership talks for MBAs and executive MBAs at the campus. And we had the group CEO of Michelin. And he says that the last time he was in the campus was for a party of the week on a Thursday night. So, and he was there at least 25 years back. Okay. So that's the culture we are talking about. It's a very warm place, lovely people, and you really don't miss your family. So yes, that's how I look at it. And the learning never stops.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, just, adding on that, I would say that by the fact that the cohorts are not huge, and that's a difference between this program versus our programs, you end up knowing everybody, right, by name and by, of course, right, and of course by their appearance, by face, but especially everybody by name, and you've spoken with everybody, and you've had some kind of interaction. So, I mean, this makes it much more personal of an experience, I would say.
That sounds great. So I just keep on thinking about that rock climbing and how that must be such an incredible community building experience. But the other side of that is the admissions piece, right? You've got all this community building on this one side, and then it's like really getting in. And many of our listeners are wondering, what actually is the process like for the ones that are applying to the program. So what are some of the suggestions that you can offer in terms of being a really attractive applicant to your program, for either program, the classic MBA or the executive MBA?
Yeah, thank you, Bara, for this question. So in terms of admissions, we are always looking holistically at the whole applicant. So I cannot stress this enough. We have a lot of questions about the GMAT score, about requirements to getting in, how to stand out. And I can't emphasize enough that your application is not your GMAT score. Your GMAT score is one small part of the application. So again, if someone is listening in today and is wondering gosh, I don't know if I'm the right fit, my first piece of advice to anyone considering either program is get in touch with our team, because we are here to offer that a personalized advice through the admissions process. So this kind of this community feeling that Stefan and Stuti have attested to, this starts really from the admissions process. Our team is super hands-on. We're there to guide candidates, coach them, help them through the admissions process, and make sure that everything's super, super clear. A couple key things to think about when you're developing your application is that because we're looking holistically at your file, we're looking not only at your educational and formal kind of professional background, but we look at everything else as well. So for instance, sometimes I'll be talking with a candidate and they'll mention, that they have kind of a business on the side, or that they have invented something. And I'm like, definitely include this kind of information in your application, because this makes you who you are. This is part of kind of your personality. This is an interesting aspect to what makes you you, and that's really what we're trying to see. We're trying to see the personality of the candidate as much as you can, right, in an application. So don't leave out those important details that you might think don't make you special, because actually we look at everything. So even that last little line on the CV where you're talking about your talents, your hobbies, you're a scuba diver, we look at it. So it's interesting for us to kind of see the whole picture so that we understand who you are. Two other key things that we are specifically looking for is international exposure and leadership potential. So when we talk about international exposure, that could be in the form of a study abroad experience. That could be working in an international company. That could be that, you maybe don't live outside of your home country, but that all your clients are international. So those types of details are super important to see in the application. There's space for it. We have a section for international. So you'll have all the space you need to talk about that in the file. In terms of leadership, it's the same. So we can, of course, look at this through a really kind of formal lens. So we can see this through leading teams, through spearheading large projects, either on a global scale or within your company. Anything related to entrepreneurship, if you've been in charge of any kind of important restructuring in your companies, all of those details show us leadership. For the MBA, we often see that candidates don't necessarily have formal management experience yet, and that's absolutely okay. It's not a requirement for the classic MBA. We are going to then look more deeply at those extracurricular activities. So we'll look maybe to see if you are a yoga instructor, or maybe you volunteer for the Red Cross, or anything that's kind of demonstrating that you have the fabric of a leader. This is going to be super, super interesting to include in the application file.
Oh, you're on mute, Eric. Eric, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, I was saying, Colleen, thank you, first of all. And you already did mention a little bit about the GMAT, how it's important, but it is not the most important thing at all. It is not, the decision is not based solely on the GMAT by any means. And leadership and international exposure have a big role to play in your eligibility. But GMAT is a big topic these days, especially since COVID and lockdown and testing centers. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to share with the audience what's going on with HEC these days. Like how much weight should they give it? First of all. Second of all, differences between the classic and the executive MBA with regards to GMAT. I know a lot of executive MBAs usually don't require a GMAT. You might want to clarify that. And then any kind of either waivers or any special cases since COVID, if that's continued on and so forth. So take it away, please.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to clarify that. So perhaps I'll start with the full-time MBA, the classic MBA, because this does require the GMAT or GRE test. So through COVID, there was a brief period of time where we didn't ever waive the GMAT test. So to be clear, I know a lot of schools did, we did not. So we still required the test. We processed applications for a brief period without them and then asked for the test later on. But for a long time now, we've had that as a back in as a hard requirement to study the file initially. So we are expecting that all of our applicants have either a GMAT or GRE score. There is no minimum required score. So we can make recommendations. Again, if you're in touch with our team, we can give feedback on scores. If you're wondering, should I apply with this score, maybe take it again, and we're really able to give insight on that. I know also some candidates are working with prep coaches to help them with their applications. So I'm sure there's lots of different advice coming through that way that can be helpful. But from our side, we don't have a strict minimum score. For the MBA, the average score at HEC is around 690. So it's, again, one element to the file. It's definitely not the only thing we look at, but it can help a good application stand out among other good applications if the score is quite strong. For the GRE, there's not an average score that we publish, but being at or around the 60th percentile across sections is super. But again, it's just one part of the file. So it's really just another way kind of that we can see your file by having the test included within. Any doubts about that, again, our team of marketing and recruitment managers can give some insight and help on that. For the executive MBA, we require a management test, but we have an in-house test that we can offer. So if candidates have taken a GMAT or GRE or executive assessments, we do accept as well for the executive MBA, that can be included in the file. If not, or if the candidate prefers to opt for our in-house test, that is absolutely fine. There's no preference either way for us. And that would be then included in the admissions process as part of the interviews. So it's a case study that's built into the interview process. So candidates would pass through a series of 2 interviews with alumni of the EMBA program, and one of those interviews would have a case study within.
I see Stuti nodding. It looks like she may have done that in-house. Is that right, Stuti?
Yes. So I'm an entrepreneur. I really did not have the time to take the GMAT, prepare for it while I was running all over Europe for my company. So I actually did the case study, and what Colleen was saying about GMAT and GRE and everything, I think one thing which HEC is extremely critical about is what do you bring as a candidate. So when you take the case study, so one thing which I learned at HEC is that there are no right and wrongs. It is about what you think, how convinced you are about it, and what do you want to make out of your conviction. So if you know what you want, if you can convey the same message to people across the table, HEC would accept you. If you know what you bring to the table, how do you contribute to peer learning? As I was saying earlier, there is immense peer learning in executive MBA. So what do people around you learn from you? These are the elements that you need to think about. And I had an exceptional admission interview, and I was very happy about it. When I left the room, I was not really worried whether I would get in or not. But the kind of exchange that I had for that 1 hour, 20 minutes, which was beyond my given time, it was exceptional. So I think, sorry if I'm jumping on that one, but for me, why HEC also stood out, because it was a lot about who I was, what I could do with myself, and the integrity and values that I bring. So HEC for that reason stood out for me. And that is the whole process of admission as well. About you. Who are you? What you want to do? How would you do it?
Sounds so exciting. Thank you for that answer. It also brings to bear, who you come in as the program, like what are you getting out of the program, and who are the professors who are actually doing the teaching, and what do they wind up bringing out in you? And also, I think, Stuti, you had talked about that, the learning edge, right? That edge that it sounds like HEC is really proud to be helping with. So who are some of the fantastic professors and faculty, and what are they working on, and what makes them so great?
Maybe I can jump in quick, and then I'll turn it over to Stuti and Stefan maybe to talk about their favorite profs. There was a very exciting publication actually that came out earlier this year from one of our strategy professors who published co-authored a book called Noise, and it has been all over kind of the best-selling charts. It's, I think, a book that's quite accessible. It's about flaws in decision making. So I think it's a book that's accessible not only to the business community, but to anyone who makes decisions. So that has been really exciting for HEC this year, because that was a very widely popularized book. And I would actually encourage anyone who's listening in today, if they want to kind of have a taste of HEC, to have a look at that book. Again, it's Noise by Olivier Sibony, and he's a strategy professor. So from my side, yeah, I think that's quite exciting for us from this year. And then, yeah, in terms of like favorite profs or standout professors, Stuti, Stefan, maybe you want to share?
Well, let's Stuti go first.
Okay. Bara, that's a wrong question, because honestly, I love all my professors and I don't want to name one, but I would still pick the first ones that I interacted with. So in executive MBA program, we start with leadership and we end with leadership. The focus on leadership is immaculate. So Randy, he's based out of the USA, and he was a leadership professor. And in the leadership module, the program is all about who are you as a leader. And it was extremely humbling. You accept yourself. And I mean, I was going back to a classroom after 16 years, and the professor didn't let me feel that I don't belong there. It was wonderful. So Randy would always stand out because he was my first professor at HEC. But again, each and every professor is amazing. And then I think I would also name the academic director for energy specialization, which is Jean-Michel Gauthier. Wow, how can one person have so much knowledge? It's amazing. So
We actually have someone here, and maybe Stefan, you want to someone has written in before joining because I think it's related. What are the biggest learnings and any elements of surprise? So maybe Stefan, you could think about that in terms of what my question was about standout professors and answer this. Himanshu.
Sure. Well, thanks for that question, of course. Well, I mean, I think I have two different answers for these questions, right? For these two questions. But first, going to Himanshu's question, I think, biggest learnings. Definitely, we know a big learning is something. It's a truism. It's something what we all know, that the time passes really quick, but you just don't realize it. And yeah, I think that it's a big learning. It is that you really need to make sure that you make the most out of the connections with your peers, right? So going beyond that academic experience, what are you learning from your peers? Because there is going to be people from 50, 60 countries, right? All the industries that there could be. I mean, you'll never be in an environment where it's going to be such a diversity of industries, diversity of thought. So that's a big learning that you have to make. It's a bit on the soft side. But it's definitely, I would say, something that goes well beyond into the future and then translates well into all kind of understanding and leadership principles. And then second one, also related to connections, it is also making the most out of the connections with the alumni and the network. Because definitely everybody's super available, and I know that in the beginning people might be a little bit hesitant, afraid to contact and to connect, and know that person is too senior, I shouldn't, and that's really not the mindset to have, because once you are in this ecosystem, you really can just reach out and say, hey, I would like to have a coffee chat, and that's how most of the transitions in terms of careers and advancements in careers are happening, right? So that's definitely something to start doing from day one and not wait, especially on the networking with the alumni, until very, very late, right? So that's definitely the biggest learnings there that come to valuing that aspect of the time, value of time. And then returning back to the academic side, I think in general it's a quite good experience, and it will depend, right, on everybody's preference a little bit. What are they looking for? I think in our case, everybody would agree that in terms of corporate finance, there's just such an excellent professor, Dennis Grom, that is just gifted, right, in the teaching, and it's just, you don't need to be interested in that, and you'll just be listening. And that's actually the kind of experiences that you'd like to have when you are studying something, is that intellectual curiosity that is awakened in you when you are listening to somebody, and you definitely get that with Dennis and with Olivier Sibony and some other people, but definitely Dennis Grom stands out as a very talented and gifted professor.
If I may add quickly on two things. So as Stefan said, Dennis does make corporate finance sound like music. He is, again, exceptional. And while you highlighted Himanshu's question, I quickly wanted to add two things on it. Your biggest learning would be, you would realize that anything you want, you can, because you have all the tools that you need to. And those tools, how to use them, how to monetize them, they make a lot of difference. You would have not known yourself like that. And surprises, of course there are, because there's nothing like a straight line or anything just going up. So it's a very good learning experience. Despite the good and the bad surprises, you're still having those tools. And HEC is an amazingly humane place. You have a problem, reach out, you would get the solution. So that way, the surprises, they just become one more learning in your journey.
I love that. I love that description. And then to know that you have that support like throughout your journey at HEC. All right, we're about 40 minutes in, and I got a couple more questions, so I'm going to jump to the next one. I really want to know about careers, right? It's all about the ROI. People who are looking at doing an MBA, they're taking a massive risk, right? So that's why a lot of research has to go into finding the right program and finding the right fit. And let's be honest, you're spending kind of a small fortune on doing your MBA. So let's talk about ROI. Let's talk about career services. And what what can graduates expect in terms of employment opportunities for local applicants, but also those who are coming from abroad?
Yeah, maybe I can, thank you for this question. Maybe I can start with this and just provide some kind of, let's say, like data points to help answer your question. So at HEC, you will have, I mean, most of our students come from outside of France. So that's something to keep in mind for the full-time program. When our full-time students are coming, they come on a student visa that then gives them the opportunity following the program to stay in France for 1 year while they're looking for employment. It's a special status that they'll have. And so in terms of finding a great opportunity after the program in France, Europe, abroad, somewhere they've never lived before, this is all facilitated, well, let's say not all facilitated by the Career Center, because the individual student also plays a big role in that, but you have, as Stuti said, all the tools to make those changes. In the full-time MBA, we do see lots of double and triple jumpers, meaning people who are changing their function, sector, and location. So that I think is one of the huge benefits to the program, is that we see almost 40% of students that make a triple jump with the MBA. So in terms of transformation, honestly, it's I think one of the best decisions you could make if you're like in a mid-career and you're looking to make a change. In terms of ROI numbers wise, on average, our MBA students double their salary following the program. Again, it's going to depend on function, role, location, but we do publish an employment report that has all of this information inside of it. It's widely available. It's on our website. You don't have to put any information into the website to download the report. We're really transparent and upfront about that. So can share it here in the chat. I'll send the link in through the chat, and you can also consult it on our website. So that's for the full-time MBA. For the executive MBA, we don't have a fully published report on the pre and post EMBA, just because our EMBA students, I think, are often pursuing their degree for slightly different reasons. I mean, they're already quite far advanced in their careers. They're not necessarily looking for a triple jump, although some of them will find the triple jump. So some of them are still doing it. But it's a little bit different in terms of recruiting, because we're really looking at events with headhunters, do's and don'ts, building your online brand. It's less of the on-campus networking and career fairs than it is with really specialized advice and coaching with executive coaches. So I think the approach is just a little bit different in terms of the careers approach, because an executive level applicant, an executive level student needs a different kind of coaching. But the services are in the same building. The career services department is there for all students on campus. So it's services that start from day one. So you really start the career journey from day one. If you come in with an idea, like I said, and change your mind along the way, your career and corporate development manager is there to support you through that. So it's not like a magic moment when you arrive on campus and then you suddenly, have clarity on what you are going to be doing. It's really a process, but we're there to accompany you through that process and through the careers journey. Stefan, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your experience so far with careers, maybe the careers curriculum or the coaching.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So it always comes back to those tools, right? And I am someone who has done, jump in both function and industry, and in a way also location, but I've been already here before in Sweden. But basically, I mean, the tools are really important and the way you use them, because there is lots of them and not everything is for everybody, right? It's very easy to get lost in the quite a lot of offerings in terms of seminars, workshops, all kind of other activities, and I think in the beginning everybody's running like a headless chicken, excuse my analogy, right, from here and there, and not really understanding what's going on. But then as you just need to make sure to understand what your priorities and what you really want to focus on. What I think it's really helpful for a lot of people, it is the mock interview sessions that you are getting, that can be organized through the Career Center. So this basically goes actually quite specific, right, from people who are focused on that industry or from specific industry. So in my case, I've done that for consulting. Our people have done this for tech or our kind of jobs, right? So you really go through the drill of the interview in terms of the fit part, the more technical part, which is the problem solving part in the consulting. So it really helps, and you get valuable feedback, and very often those are also external consultants providing that service. So there is not so much the bias that, it's just somebody from inside that is telling you all the time the same things, right? You get a little bit of impartiality in that advice. So that's really, really, really valuable. And I think I grew out a lot in my performance by leveraging those mock interviews.
What are the things that that both of you have spoken about? Stuti, you talked about this big family and then an extended family. And Stefan, you talked about how there was that you're really seeing that you didn't call it a family, but you talked about how if someone was connected with HEC, that you were able to then connect with them further. So I'm curious about the alumni network, like what they're doing, what your relationship is with alumni, how that fosters the family reunions, right? And how that fosters a kind of like what's formal set up at HEC Paris about the alumni network? Because it sounds like both of you are already really reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, maybe from my perspective, when it comes to the alumni network, I know that there are formal things that are being done. I haven't been involved myself into many formal things. However, just the breadth and the reach of the network, I think in the whole HEC ecosystem, we are speaking about 70,000 or something along those lines, alumni in total. And you really don't need to have, to reach to people that have done the same program like you. I've reached out to people who are in, places that I wanted to learn about more, that have done a semester at HEC as part of their SEMS, master cycle. But because there is that culture which is very strong, it always resonates with them and they are very happy to talk. Of course, if you've done something more similar in terms of programs, then there is even a stronger, connection or a stronger level of connection that you'll have. But you can really basically tap in anybody who has passed through this ecosystem, and then and they extensively leverage that, and you really get a lot of very interesting conversations with people to learn about what they are doing, what's their industry, what you need to know about that industry, and building your knowledge about the industry. So it's not really doing networking for asking for a favor, but it's networking that people are really helpful in the way to kind of show you what you need to know about that industry, that company, that function, that country, whatever it's your interest. And that really builds your profile, right? Because you start knowing things and you have that confidence. And as the HEC motto is, the more you know, the more you're there. And that's how the results are coming. You just need to do it.
This looks like a great report, Eric. Thank you, Stefan. This looks like a great report, Eric, that talks about what alumni are doing too. We'll have to jump in on that. See what people are doing.
On the bottom of the screen there, you can see that, right?
Yep, you can see it.
Yeah, so it's not clickable, unfortunately, but you can copy that down, or we'll also share with you the website before the end of the program today. But I think this kind of brings us down to the end. Any other comments or things you want to add? I'll ask the three of our special guests today before we wrap it up.
Maybe I can go first. So yeah, I would say that I know when candidates are thinking about pursuing an MBA degree, whether a classic full-time MBA or an executive MBA, you might have lots of doubts about that, and you might be thinking, is this the right next step? Is this right for me? Is this is this a good idea? Right? Just to put it like in short, is this a good idea? And I would really encourage anyone who's asking themselves those questions to do lots of research. I mean, there's lots of legwork to do prior to actually submitting an application. And I think the more you know about a school, a program, the better you'll be equipped to feel if it's the right fit. And I do think that like moment does come at some point, or should come, when you're like, okay, this is the right fit for me. So reach out to the school, talk to us. I mean, like I said, our teams are here to help, talk to students, talk to alumni. Our teams also can help facilitate that. We have ambassador programs in both of our MBA programs. So students who volunteer their time willingly to talk with candidates, because they've been in your shoes, they know how scary it can be, how uncertain you might be, and just I think having that those conversations. You don't have to talk to 50 people, but have a couple of really significant, meaningful conversations can really make a big difference, I think, in the comfort level of pursuing such a degree. And we're happy to hear from anyone. So we can help facilitate that. We want candidates to be confident and comfortable when they're looking at our school and feel like they have transparent information, all the information, and we're here to really help with that. So that's kind of my last advice would be to really don't hesitate, don't self-filter out, just be open with us about what you're looking for, and we'll help you feel or see whether or not the school is the right fit.
Anyone else?
Maybe I'll quickly, build on that, because I think that really makes, resonates with me a lot, that you should do your research and talk to people, right? There are various ways to reach. There is student ambassadors. There is also, you might know somebody who can put you in contact with our students or recent students. And usually you get quite a lot of honest feedback from current students, right? With their joys and disappointments and so on, because everything is super fresh. But I would say, just to avoid confirmation bias, make sure that you don't talk just to ambassadors or alumni or students of one place, right? Form your opinion about it, because you don't want to, to kind of look for confirmation cues in what people tell you and not listen, kind of close your ears to the honest feedback and then be in a place which you'll be disappointed at the end of the day, right? And the only way to kind of weed out all of those future disappointments, it is to build a culture around the different programs and then see what fits with your personality and with your aspirations. Because at the end of the day, as you, Eric, said at the beginning, there are lots of good quality programs. I think all of the top programs have lots of applicants, right? So we're not really trying to do that kind of promotion here, but it's more like make sure that it's a good fit for you. And if it's a good fit for you, I'm sure everything's going to work out and you'll find the right resources and support system that just going to make you successful in the way forward.
Colleen and Stefan has more or less captured everything that I could have possibly said. It's extremely important to know what you want, and you have to have that as your key lens. So if you know what you want, you would be able to find the right fit for you, the right school. As far as HEC is concerned, it's going to be a simpler journey, because we make mistakes, we learn from them, and we celebrate our victories. So it's a very human experience. And of course, HEC will always be very close to my heart because I'm an alum here. Going back to you're the only key personnel, and everything else, the logistics, the application process, it just falls in place. And while you are at it, please be honest. Please be honest to yourself. That's extremely important. So,
There's some really good general advice for anyone who's thinking about an MBA or even a master's program. So I want to thank you for that. I think it's a nice way to end the episode. Guys, this has been wonderful, a really great conversation. I want to thank all the panelists, special guests, all the people who listened in the audience today on all our different platforms, especially those who asked questions. We had a lot of really great comments that came up that I didn't share because they were just kind of compliments, but you guys did really well, and people were really excited to learn things about HEC, to hear from professional staff as well as current students and alumni. So that's really, really great. Thank you so much. Don't forget to tune in next week to MBA Waves, as always, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Paris time, 1 p.m. New York time, and 10 a.m. San Francisco time. We have another great episode with another fantastic school, and that's all for me today. Thank you again once again.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks so much.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks.